Hello, this is the Growth League podcast. My name is Caleb Clark, and my mission for this show is pretty simple. It's to learn from marketers on how they're playing the great game of marketing leadership, their ideas, experiences, perspective, wins and losses, and the playbook that they've established over time. Listen, there's more than one way to lead a marketing team and a marketing function. So if you're a VP, a CMO, director, or someone aspiring to fill one of these marketing leadership roles in the future, tune in to learn from some of the best in the business.
Is surrounding yourself with people that are resilient, right? And so maybe things aren't always perfect, but if you work with a team that is resilient and can push through problems, then that solves a lot of issues.
And today I am chatting with Logan Mallory, who is the Vice President of Marketing at Motivosity. Logan, welcome to the show, man.
Caleb, appreciate it. I'm glad to get to hang out with you today.
Yeah, me too. So I spent some time checking you out, looking on LinkedIn. We had a conversation earlier. We're talking about winning left and right and front and back. You're on a team of winners. You're leading a department that is winning. And you've credited that to a few things, which I wanted to point out. Number one is I think it's really important and that you mentioned you have excellent product market fit. People know what problems you solve for whom, and the messaging reflects that. You have a deep integration across the rest of the organization, and you've tethered yourselves to critical top and bottom line KPIs as compared to relying too heavily on leading indicators, traditional marketing KPIs. And you've been able to leverage all of this into a position where you've experienced the first, second, and third best revenue quarters for the organization. Chock full of excellent case studies, very strong and sound CTA strategies. I'll go on, but I won't. Logan, elaborate a little bit more about why you believe you're in this period of winning.
Well, I appreciate that, Caleb. You did do a lot of research, so thanks for paying attention and pulling some of that out. Listen, it is a really interesting time right now, and there are plenty of ways to win, even when the economy is tough.
Yeah.
I look around and I see all these other businesses that are struggling and trying to fight through and going through layoffs, and I just feel really grateful to be at Motivosity and to be in the place that we are. Again, things aren't perfect, but we are seeing a lot of really great results right now. And I think part of that is the team that we work with, right? A huge part of winning is surrounding yourself with people that are resilient, right? And so maybe things aren't always perfect, but if you work with a team that is resilient and can push through problems, then that solves a lot of issues. And then for sure, like there are some marketing things we're doing really well and trying to drive alignment with sales and trying new lead sources and so I think there's a lot that we're doing there, and I'm excited to talk about that with you today.
Awesome. You mentioned resiliency as being a critical factor, for success, and that your team is resilient. Do you think that that resiliency, the things that you're experiencing from your team and seeing, is that directly correlated to their belief in what you as a department are doing and Motivosity is doing on a grander scale? Does belief in the organization, what you're doing, is that a prerequisite for that resiliency?
Yeah, I don't know which one's the chicken or the egg, but I absolutely think that believing in what you're doing or believing in the values you're focused on have an impact, right? If you don't have some sort of a tie to a mission statement, then it's pretty easy to get burnt out. And so yes, absolutely. When you believe in what you're doing, it empowers you to be more resilient. But I also don't think that's mutually exclusive.
Right.
Meaning you can just be a resilient person. I was invited a couple of weeks ago to go speak at Utah Valley University, one of the schools here in Utah, and was speaking to a class of, 25 or 30 students in their business program. And it was interesting. I took a little bit of a different approach. Normally, the professor, Joe Staples, who's a friend, Joe said, hey, pick a marketing topic and it'll be valuable for them. And I thought, I'm going to do something different. And I talked about failing at work. And I pulled out campaigns that had failed and from nationally known brands, and told stories from the Gap to Hines to just a handful of different organizations. And then I talked about some of my own failures at work, and then shifted into the importance of resilience. And I just said to these 30 students, I said, there is no chance you don't fail.
Right.
And so embrace that. And here's how you can be a resilient player, and just be ready for it. And it was kind of a fun approach, a little bit
That's,
different than normal.
would you mind sharing a few nuggets from that speaker's topic?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. Let me tell one of the stories.
Sure.
One of the stories actually came from Heinz, right? Heinz ketchup, and a super well-known brand. At one point, Heinz had a QR code on the front of their bottles, and I actually don't know what that QR code led to. I don't know if it led to like recipes or you know talking tips for your family around the dinner table. I really don't know what it was. But they had bought this QR code, and at some point, the QR code expired, right? And somebody didn't upload it. Somebody didn't fix it or change it. And so you wouldn't be surprised to figure out who had bought it. It was some sort of an adult
Oh, of
entertainment
course.
website. And so now you've got this QR code on the bottle, and every time someone scans that QR code, it goes right to some sort of pornography, and that's probably pretty traumatic for Heinz's brand,
Right.
right? And so that was one example. I told another story, and I tell this one a lot. I had joined Motivosity. I've been here about 3 years now, and a few months into my time with Motivosity, I got an email from one of my counterparts on the executive team, and the email said, "Logan, we've been on this award list for 3 years in a row, the Utah Valley Fast 50. It's the fastest 50 growing companies in
Right.
Utah." And they were like, "Motivosity's been on this list, and it was announced today, and we're not on it." And admittedly, I had just screwed up. Like, the timing was different because of COVID. I had never really worked for a local company before. Like, I just didn't know what was happening. And so I met with my executive counterparts. I sat down with them and told them that we had missed this award. And they kind of looked at me and basically just shrugged. They basically said, like, "That's okay. You screwed up, but we'll get it next year and no big deal." And there was something about that psychological safety that like really freed me up. And so I turned around to the marketing team and I said, "Hey, we're going to leverage this somehow." And we decided to release a press release. And we did a big press release that said, "Motivosity forgets to apply for the Utah Fast 50 and
No,
doesn't win." Right. And then we put in the three awards that we had won, and we photoshopped a fourth that said "did not apply." And we just pushed it out to the market.
good
And
for
I
you.
had people from really large companies reach out and say, "We never would have heard of Motivosity if you would have won that award, but we've heard of you now."
That's awesome. I think it's such an amazing example of if you invest in making people feel safe, as you said, and making people not afraid to fail. What does that do in terms of pulling out all the different colors of people, from creativity to new ideas and all? So how do you leverage psychological safety, if you will, or safety amongst your team? Is that one of your superpowers or your approaches?
I think, I mean, absolutely. And I think the best ways leaders can do that is to just lead with vulnerability. When you screw up, admit it. When you don't hit a target, be okay with it. Don't try to be perfect in all of your numbers and reporting. But also, like, that is one of the things, and I won't make this a sales pitch, Caleb, but that is one of the things Motivosity does, right? Like, our product is intended to build cultures that feel connected and unified. And when you have meaningful relationships, not just surface level relationships, when you have meaningful relationships with your coworkers, then you cover for each other when something goes wrong, or you help each other learn about it and how to fix it. You catch it before, right? Like, a connected culture solves a lot of the problems. And when there is a failure, then you figure out how to solve that together. I was doing a webinar not too long ago, and someone in the chat said something really fascinating about this. I was asking about psychological safety at work, and this person's name was Melanie, and she said, at our company, we only care about who can fix it, not who broke it. And I think that was a really cool concept. But again, if you don't have a great culture at your organization, if you don't have a connected group of people, then that's not possible.
Yeah,
And yes, Motivosity does that for our customers, but we absolutely do that for ourselves. That's what we try to build here.
that's awesome. I am going to ask you to pitch a little bit. I want to understand what problems does Motivosity solve for who, and why do you guys think you're the best position for that? I want to put some context here.
Yeah. Motivosity is an employee experience platform, and we help organizations create winning cultures. Now, we do that by helping make sure that people are connected to each other, that they're connected to their managers, and that they're connected to the goals and values of the organization.
Right.
In a way, you can think of Motivosity a little bit like a social intranet. It's the central place where people go to connect and be communicated with. It's where they go to receive recognition and to give recognition to others. And then there's some other really important parts of our platform. We have a manager development module where they can hold their one-on-ones and their coaching and their performance reviews with their managers. Typically, that's bought by CEOs or CFOs or chief people officers
Yeah.
that are wanting to create really great cultures. It's kind of interesting. It's not that we don't help bad cultures fix the bad things going on, but more often than not, Motivosity is a tool that a company with a good culture that wants to be better
Amplify
purchases,
it. Yeah.
right? Yeah, they're taking something that they've already invested in and built and care about, and amplify is a great word. They're making it bigger and louder and more personal. They're taking the values off of the walls and making that a part of their daily life. And so again, how is Motivosity different than other platforms?
Yeah.
Well, if you were to compare us to companies that are in the recognition and rewards industry, Motivosity focuses on culture so much more than everyone else. Most of the time, companies talk about the rewards they give. They
Hmm.
focus on giving your people stuff.
Right.
And that's good, like swag and a gift card. Those are nice, but it doesn't change people's natures and how they engage at work. It doesn't get them out of bed on Monday mornings.
Right.
And so Motivosity focuses very much on that culture piece.
That's awesome. I mean, everyone who leads any sort of high performing team knows that it's the people and the culture and the interconnectedness of those people that ultimately propel anything of value from a metric standpoint. So 3 years ago, Logan, when you were coming into this job, was it a job and a paycheck at a time, or was there any specific reason why you someone who could probably lead many different marketing functions in many different organizations? Is there anything that drew you, that compelled you to hang your hat here?
Yeah, for sure. I had been a Motivosity customer before
Okay.
I worked here. And so I knew what the platform did. I was aware of its impact. And so that for sure made it easy for me to jump in. One of the things, and I've worked for good companies, like I've worked for honest, reputable organizations. Candidly, a lot of the products that I've marketed have been kind of boring, right? Like project management software and business phone systems. And so to get to do something like Motivosity that was fun and energizing was really compelling to me. Um, Two, I wanted to lead the broader team. Like I've led large teams and managed, $10 million plus annual budgets. But I wanted to lead other parts of the marketing organization, and this absolutely gave me the chance to do that. And then last but certainly not least, our founder is a really compelling leader. His name is Scott Johnson. He started an organization called Workfront, which was acquired by Adobe a few years ago. And I just wanted to learn from someone who has built and exited, and I wanted to learn some of those business lessons. And I knew that working so closely with Scott would give me access to a lot of that. And so far, I've been very, very right.
That's awesome. And they pay you on top of all of that.
Yes, it ends up there is a paycheck every other week, and that doesn't hurt.
As marketing leaders, we have different stops along our journeys, right, in our career, and you know, at least majority of the leaders I know try to identify what you know, what they can learn from those different experiences and apply to their playbook going forward. After 3 years at Motivosity, is there anything that comes to mind that surprised you in terms of a learning of yourself, the way you manage, the way you lead, the whatever, anything that comes to mind in terms of something you didn't know about Logan 3 years ago?
Oh man, the way that I heard that question was, what are some of the things that you've learned you can be better at or that you're not doing a good job of? And
Yeah.
it's a long, long list. One of the things I think I am a very, excuse some arrogance. I think I'm an inspiring and approachable leader. I think I do a really great job of rallying the team and getting people invested and excited. One counter area that I don't do as well in is getting into the details. Like I'm an idea person and I get excited and I run. Um, I don't always spell out the details as clearly as I would like to for my team. And so that's something that I'm trying to work on and figure out how to do. This sounds really silly. A couple of let's see, it would have been earlier this year. I just felt like my team was a little somber, like really great group of people, and they just all kind of everybody just kind of felt okay, not great. And so I met with my CEO and I said, "Hey, I'm feeling this amongst my team. What do you recommend? What am I missing? What am I not thinking about?" And he said, "How'd your last quarterly planning session go?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't do a quarterly planning session. I've never done a quarterly planning session." And so I changed that. And for the last 3 quarters, I've taken a day where I rally my team together and we do a little bit of fun, but a lot of planning and kind of identify the urgent and important items. And though I'm still learning through that process, it's been really helpful for me to kind of re-energize my team and refocus them on a quarterly basis. Again, I got a big long list of things to fix, but I'm working on that one, and that was good advice from Scott.
Whether it's process, system, or people, what have you tried to intentionally put in place as infrastructure to support that gap area that you have about detail orientation? Is there anybody on the team? Is there a different process that you've intentionally implemented to kind of bridge the gap while you learn this yourself?
There's a couple of half answers around that. Like we started using Workfront, which is a project management software, and partnering with our product team to create more visibility for both groups there. We hired a product marketer that has a really strong capability there and is very goal oriented and very documentation oriented, and she's been a wonderful addition and kind of a counterbalance to me. We use Motivosity and our manager development tool, which helps me focus on priorities and coaching sessions. And so we use our own tool for that really regularly. But I think part of it is really just paying attention and trying, right? I think it's more the concept of being intentional
Yeah,
than any specific tool.
yeah,
And again, so that I'm not a hypocrite when any of my team listens to this, like it's something I'm working on, not
yeah, yeah.
something I have finalized.
That's awesome. With high performing teams, one of the reasons why they're high performing is because, like you said, there's resiliency, there's a good ability to navigate through problems together. Is there anything that you're willing to share that you and your team right now are burdened by? You don't have the answer to, but there is a sense of excitement around trying to figure it out together. What in your mind is left as a big gaping hole that you guys are focused on right now? It could be within the
Um,
mix, it could be channel side, it could be overall strategy. Is there anything that creates excitement for your team in terms of we're going to fix this thing?
I think that I think that one of the things that is a challenge is always having the new idea, right? And in marketing, it's a little exhausting because
Yeah.
what you did last quarter is no longer exciting. And so, and that might only be an internal perception, right? But there is kind of this, well, what's next mentality when it comes to marketing. You can't just leave the machine
Right.
running at status quo and expect that to be sufficient. And so, for me, like, it is, how do we think of the next thing? How do we get a little more creative? How do we replace our least effective lead source with a more effective lead source? Right? It's kind of this test and always be testing mentality. And though vendors aren't always fun, like, it's kind of annoying to get the spam in your LinkedIn inbox and
Yeah.
in your email, there is some validity to knowing what's happening in the market so that you have new ideas and
Right.
new things to try, because that demand will never go away. Everyone kind of thinks they're a marketer, right? Like, everybody is like, oh, well, I could do marketing, and like,
Yeah.
oh, I know what that's all about. And being able to, like, stay relevant and exciting, and not just doing new things for the purpose of doing new things, but to always be optimizing. That's a really big challenge, and I think this team is working hard to stay in front of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then how have you and your team been able to balance that out by battling another problem for marketing teams, which is random acts of marketing or chasing shiny objects? How do you tether it to, if you're always in this optimizing, testing, trying new things mentality, how do you avoid departure from a strategy or a North Star as it relates to achievement?
Yeah, it's interesting you ask that. In our last quarterly planning session, I the
Which
sticky note.
now you're doing quarterly planning sessions, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's part of the answer. But as a part of that, I listened to my team and what they were working on, and the sticky note that I wrote for myself and walked out of the room with was clarity and consistency. How do I help my team feel like they know what they're working on all of the time, and that it's not changing too often? And so what I actually did was met with the executive team, and again, a smart CEO that helps make that possible. And we met with the executive team and kind of rolled that focus out and
Right.
up. And I feel like there was unanimous buy-in. And so now I feel empowered to say no. Right?
Yeah.
If there's something that doesn't fall within that clarity and consistency sticky note that I wrote down, then I get to say no, and I have a really great justification for doing so. And it's not about being rude or in control or being power hungry. It's about, I can't do everything, and neither can my team. And the more we
Right.
switch and shift, the less effective we are. And so that clarity and consistency is a gift.
And that's something that's permeated, that you feel it's permeated down into the rest of your team in terms of a shared ethos.
It is permeating. It's actually kind of happening in real time. And that executive team meeting happened, and then I met with my team individually as individuals, and then I met with them as a team, and then we did a company-wide meeting to clarify that. And so it is kind of this repeat and be steady message. And
Right.
I do think I think that's taking effect.
That's awesome. For teams, marketing teams that want to follow suit the way you guys have done and tether yourselves and all of your optimization decisions around KPIs that are more business case centric as compared to leads, click through rate, etc. What advice would you give for those types of departments that want to tether their efforts to something of the business case, revenue, bottom line, as compared to uh, leading indicators? Because that is a desire for lots, but difficult in practice for many.
I would say walk across the office and sit down to whoever's in charge of sales
Yeah.
and say, I want to be a better partner. How can I help you? And
Tell me
that will
more.
start the conversation.
So many companies, there's this gap in between those functions, right? It's this is your job, this is your job. Why is that critical? What did it look like for you guys when you facilitated this integration?
Candidly, that's been a part of my approach for years
Right.
now, and so it's just second nature to me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm winning unless sales is winning, and that means I'm cautious and intentional about what I say in executive meetings. It means I set up meetings with sales to go over our numbers together. It means I'd like to think through our annual numbers and budgeting together.
Mm,
It means that when sales shows up and asks for something, I at least fight my urge to initially and immediately say no, right? Like, so I think it is just kind of breaking the mold of what exists and what has existed, and saying, I want to be the best partner I can. That doesn't mean I always say yes, but
right,
it means I always listen.
right. Oh, that's great. It's a mystery for many groups, so I think that getting your sharing on this is super helpful, because sometimes it's as simple as just walking across the hall, like you said, and getting into conversation. Um, if is there an area of your mix of your strategy where, if money was no object and you could just dump as much as possible, where's the one area that you would double down on, as compared to the flip side of that question is, where is an area that is non-existent today and you want to stand up from scratch, something maybe you've seen in ideation sessions that you want to apply to the mix but haven't yet? So where's the area of double down and where's the area of birth?
Yeah. I mean, here's the story. I'm a demand gen marketer by nature, right? I'm very numbers oriented, very lead focused. Um, One of the things that I'm loving is the impact of our live events
Hmm.
on conversations, right? So whether that's an expo, whether that's a webinar, whether that's a speaking engagement, Motivosity has this really great energy and this really powerful message.
Yeah.
And though we don't always see the direct ROI from those live events, um, it always makes our conversations better, right? We have people that show up and say, I saw this person speak from Motivosity, or oh my gosh, I love your webinars, or oh, you guys are so energetic, you totally stood out on that floor. And so that's not a primary driver necessarily,
Mhm.
but as this way to really grow our brand, which makes everything else easier. I've really enjoyed seeing that. If I had all the money in the world and could go do something we're not doing, I would buy a blimp in the Macy's Day Parade. I wish that I had a giant Yeti blimp every November.
That's
I've looked
awesome.
into it, and I'm not saying it won't ever happen. It just isn't going to happen right now. But
Yeah,
someday when Motivosity is massive and I have the luxury, I might buy a giant Yeti Thanks
that's
Matters
awesome.
blimp for the Macy's Day Parade.
That's awesome. When you say that, and joking aside, when you say that, obviously you're thinking about awareness. Tell me a little bit about the market in the United States, or wherever you guys sell to. Is there still work to go from an awareness side, or is everyone aware and it's just now a differentiation thing? Tell me about the market.
Nah, we're on our infancy. I did a webinar with 1,100 people a few days ago, and it was mostly HR people. And I asked them, what are you currently doing for your employee engagement and recognition efforts? And 60%, excuse me, 60% said that they didn't have any system or process or tool, right? And so the market's there. Now, there's a lot of players in the market, and that we're in the employee recognition market, and more popping up all the time. But there's still a lot to do. Most organizations have a bunch of gift cards in their drawer that they hand out occasionally. And to mature that and to get actual participation, and again, to shift it from giving people stuff to creating a culture where people want to stay, where we still have a lot of work to do in the industry. And Motivosity's brand has grown a lot in the 3 years since I've been here, but I won't pretend we're a household name yet. Maybe that blimp will push us over the edge.
Well, that's fun. There's more mountains to tackle, right? And a couple more questions.
Yeah, please.
The first one, whether it's at Motivosity or organizations in your previous life, if you've had the opportunity to work with external partners, what's been your approach in facilitating just the best possible relationship between your internal team that you're with every day and external partners? What's your playbook on that?
That's an interesting question. Huh. Let me start with this. Right now, I'm working with a PR agency. The organization is Otter PR. They're out of St. Petersburg, Florida, um, and they feel like they are a part of our team.
Hmm.
Like they respond to emails quickly. We have a Slack channel with them. They look out for new ideas. They take our ideas and run with them. Um, they've adjusted to our work style and kind of accommodate how we want to work. Is it a perfect partnership? No, but it's such a fantastic group that I can't imagine not working with them. And so to me, that kind of attitude really is what creates a powerful partnership. Is willing to kind of blend and feel
Right.
like you've brought them onto part of the team. I
Right.
would argue most people don't do that, and most vendors don't. I would argue most vendors get the agreement, kind of do the bare minimum, and hope you'll renew. And that's tough. That's a tough place to work in.
Yeah. Yeah. It certainly is. I think that meshing in as a partner, you're lucky in that regard. And at the end of the day, it's one team, it's one culture, right? It's one North Star you're in pursuit of. Logan, this is my last question. You're well accomplished, well experienced, keynote speaker, leader of a winning marketing function and team. Uh, Beyond the 9 to 5, or even within it, is there anything that you've hung on to tightly as a way of how do you keep yourself sharp these days? What do you do to contribute to your growth as a leader and a marketer?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things like always, having conversations. I mentioned earlier, like having conversations with vendors. That's
Right.
one of the ways you learn what's new and what's happening and what's available. Going to lunch with people and kind of having this group of intelligent, sharp peers that you can reference things with. This is a little selfish, but like in 2023, I've totally tried to change my physical health. I'm eating differently. I'm sleeping differently. I'm working out consistently, and I think I was kind of reaching a point where I had ignored that for so long that it was taking a toll, and I feel sharper in the last 8 9 months since I've made that a priority. And again, not perfect. I won't pretend I have everything figured out, but I do feel like some of that extra attention to me has made me better at work and outside of work.
Not selfish at all. What's part of your routine quickly?
My wife and I, for the last, we've kind of been exercising separately, and now we started waking up together at about 6 and working out in the mornings and have enough time before the kids get there. I think working out together has been really nice. This week, this is brand new. We started pulling. We have a little shed where our gym is,
Okay.
and we started bringing. I have 4 kids, and we've started bringing the kids out to the shed and doing a 10-minute meditation together. We're not super earthy, but it's been kind of nice to just get our kids there and calm them down, have them have a calm moment and try to help them focus and do that as a family. It's been kind of interesting.
Good for you, man. I think a lot of people would feel awkward about that. How the kid's going to react? I just think investing in that is. I have 2 young daughters, and I might steal a page from your playbook on that.
Steal it. It's been good. If nothing else, it's 10 minutes together in a little bit of peace and quiet. That's a good thing.
That's amazing. Leave us with this. What is on the horizon for Motivosity when you look into that glass ball? What are some of the things that come to clarity for you?
Yeah, Motivosity is going to continue to be a great place to work. And it's insane how many people approach us and say, I want to work there. We have old employees leave and say, I want to come back. A couple of weeks ago, I had a candidate that had said no to a job offer. We had offered him a job, and a few weeks ago, he messaged me and said, "I made the wrong choice. I should have been there. And if I can come back, let me know. If I can come there again, let me know."
Yeah.
And so we're going to be a destination employer. We did a new thing in August. We took all of our team members and their spouses, so 96 people. on a fully paid trip to Cancun, Mexico. And so instead of a president's club where, the top sales reps get to go, all of us went. And our CEO said, we can get more done in 3 days together, enjoying our time together, than in a year full of meetings. And I think that kind of attitude and approach is going to be a signal in the employee market to come to Motivosity. I think our marketing is going to do its job, and we're going to have a really great brand recognition, and sales will get easier for us. And I expect great things. I expect great things for Motivosity, and a bright next 3 or 4 years here for me
That's awesome. Well,
and
only know,
us, not just me.
yeah, I know for sure. Well, only knowing you a short time, I can feel something. Maybe it's those 10-minute meditations that have
That's
prompted me.
right.
But I think if I was a member of your team, I would feel like shit. Yeah, let's go get this thing done. So, great job. Thanks for sharing a few pages of your playbook, and I really appreciate your time.
I'm glad to be here with you, Caleb. And if I can help your audience, I hope they'll find me. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I'm
Yeah,
easy to find there, and I hope people will reach out if there's anything I can do to support.
for sure they will. Thanks so much, Logan.
Cheers.